In the deep silence of space, a lonely radar tower stood on the edge of an alien moon. Inside it sat Lyra, a young alien girl with bright silver eyes and quiet thoughts. Every night she watched the stars move, one by one, and every night felt the same. Beep, beep, beep. Her radar blinked softly, showing hundreds of dots, ships, signals, and sometimes just ghosts of static. Lyra sighed. Nothing new. Nothing ever changed. She leaned back on her chair, looking through the glass dome above her head. The stars looked cold tonight. Distant. Uncaring. She thought about the stories her grandmother once told her. Stories about strange beings from another world. Beings made of flesh and blood who walked on two legs, like them. But different. They were called humans. Everyone laughed at those stories now. The council said humans were just myths, fairy tales from the Dark Age. But still, sometimes, when Lyra looked at the stars, she wondered, what if they were real? What if someone out there was watching her too? She smiled at the thought. Then the radar beeped again. But this time, it wasn't normal. The sound was sharper, faster. The lines on the screen jumped. A single dot appeared. Bright, moving. Lyra frowned. "What is this?" she whispered. She checked the system logs. Nothing matched. Not the signal code, not the energy type. It wasn't any known alien ship or any fleet pattern. The system tried to identify it, but failed. The dot moved closer, closer, and then stopped, right at the edge of her moon's atmosphere. Her heart began to pound. She zoomed in, switching to deep scan. The ship's outline appeared, strange and metallic, rough design, old technology, and yet it looked familiar. Something she had seen only in ancient museum archives. The ships of the lost race. The humans. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "That can't be." She checked again. The computer analyzed the ship's structure, scanning the hull pattern. The results came back flashing in red. Unknown class, human origin, probability 87%. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers froze above the control panel. A human ship. Impossible. She leaned closer to the screen. The ship wasn't moving anymore. It was waiting. She bit her lip. Why would it stop? Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the signal channel. Maybe it was an old satellite or a trap. Still, something inside her whispered, "Listen." Static filled the room. For a long time, there was nothing, only the hum of machines. Then, a faint sound broke through. "Hello?" Lyra jumped back. Her skin tingled. The voice was deep, soft, and strange. Not alien, not machine. It sounded human. She turned the volume up. The words came again, broken by static. "This is Captain Ryan Holt. Terran Expedition. Anyone receiving this? Respond." The voice faded. Lyra stared at the screen, unable to speak. Terran Expedition. The word Terran. She remembered that from the myths. It meant Earth. Her throat felt dry. She glanced at the door. No one was there. The night was silent. Only her and the stars. Her heart said, "Answer him." Her mind said, "Don't." If the council found out she talked to an unknown signal, she'd be punished. They didn't allow contact with any outsider species, and humans if they ever existed, were considered dangerous. But what if he needed help? What if he was real? She hesitated. Then her trembling fingers pressed the transmission key. She leaned toward the microphone, her voice barely a whisper. "Who are you?" She released the button. The radar lights blinked. The message went out, disappearing into the cold silence of space. For a long time, nothing happened, only the faint hum of the tower. Lyra felt foolish. Maybe it was just interference. Maybe she'd imagined it all. She sighed, leaning back. Her eyes drifted toward the stars again. "So much for myths," she murmured. Then, beep, beep, beep. Her radar flashed again. The signal was back, stronger this time. Lyra's pulse quickened. She opened the channel. The voice returned, clearer now, filled with life. "We come in peace. We thought your kind was gone." Lyra's breath hitched, her eyes widened. He thought her kind was gone? Did that mean humans had survived all this time? Her hands trembled as she replayed the message. She listened again and again, each time feeling something new rise inside her. Fear, wonder, and hope. The myths were true. Humans were real. And one of them was speaking to her, right now. She looked out the dome window. The stars didn't feel so distant anymore. Somewhere out there, a real human ship was waiting. She whispered to herself, "This changes everything." The screen flickered again, showing coordinates. Landing coordinates. The human ship was requesting entry. Her breath caught. Should she let them in? Should she even reply? She could lose everything, her job, her freedom. But the thought of ignoring them felt worse. Her finger hovered over the button. Her heartbeat filled her ears. One choice could change the fate of two worlds. And then, slowly, she pressed accept. The transmission light turned green. A message was sent back into the void. The stars outside seemed to blink, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Before we continue, if you love deep sci-fi mysteries and human-first stories like this one, then gently take a moment to subscribe to this channel, because what comes next will surprise you. Lyra looked back at the radar screen. The human ship had begun to move again, slowly descending toward her moon. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "They're coming," she whispered. The beeping grew faster. The radar lines spiked red. She could see it now, a bright, glowing craft piercing through the darkness. And somewhere inside that ship, a human was smiling, whispering to himself. "We found them." Lyra didn't know it yet, but tonight, her life, her planet, and her beliefs were about to change forever. The static still danced across the radar screen, but now it sounded alive. A low hum echoed through the tower walls, like a whisper carried by the stars. Lyra's hands were shaking. Her heart was still racing from what she'd just heard. She replayed the message again and again. "This is Captain Ryan Holt. Terran Expedition." Each time, the human's voice seemed closer, warmer, more real. She could almost feel it inside the room with her. Outside the glass dome, the alien moon glowed faintly under twin suns. The shadows stretched long and sharp, moving like quiet ghosts. Lyra felt a strange chill as she realized. The myths her people laughed at were never myths at all. And now, one of them was coming here. She opened the data log, her long fingers sliding over the glowing surface. Every protocol screamed the same warning: do not engage unknown contact. But curiosity had already taken control of her heart. She leaned close to the screen. "Captain Holt," she whispered softly, "if you're real, then what do you want here?" No answer came. Only a soft hiss of static. Then, suddenly, the tower lights dimmed. The computer blinked red. An incoming signal override. Encrypted. Strong. Lyra gasped. "That's not from him!" The council's crest appeared on the screen, a golden circle with sharp wings. The automated system spoke in a cold, mechanical voice. "Unauthorized communication detected. Cease transmission immediately." Lyra froze. Her tail twitched nervously. How could they have detected it so fast? Her heart thudded in her chest. She slammed the power key, shutting down the external link. The tower went dark for a moment, leaving her in cold silence. Only her own heartbeat filled the room. She whispered, "They can't know." If the council found out she had answered a human signal, they would arrest her for treason. She'd seen it happen before, operators disappearing after contacting ghost frequencies. She took a deep breath, her mind racing. She needed to hide the evidence. Her fingers moved quickly, erasing logs, deleting timestamps. The screen blinked, clean. No trace left. She sighed in relief, but the relief didn't last long. Beep, beep, beep. The radar flared again. The human ship had changed direction. It was heading directly toward her moon's surface, toward her tower. Her breath caught. "No, he can't." If he landed here, the council's satellites would pick him up instantly. She tapped the comm channel again, whispering, "Human ship, do not approach. You are being watched. Repeat, do not approach." Static. Then a voice came through, faint but steady. "Lyra, is that your name?" She froze, her chest tightened. "How do you know my name?" "I saw your signal signature in the transmission pattern," he said calmly. "You answered me, didn't you?" She wanted to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Her throat felt dry. "Who are you really?" she whispered. "I told you," he said. "Ryan Holt, Terran captain. And if you're hearing this, then history lied to both of us." Lyra stared at the glowing console, lost for words. History lied? What did he mean? The human's voice softened. "Your world was part of ours. Once, before the fall." She frowned. "What fall?" But before he could answer, the radar alarm screamed, a piercing siren that shook the room. Lyra turned sharply. A new signal had appeared, this one from orbit, large, powerful, and this time definitely not human. "Oh no," she breathed. The council had dispatched a patrol fleet. They had traced the unauthorized signal. They were coming straight for her. "Captain Holt, you need to leave," she said quickly. "You don't understand what's coming." "I'm not leaving," he interrupted. "We've traveled years to find this place, to find you." Lyra slammed her hand against the console. "Don't be foolish. You'll destroy you." His voice grew quiet. "Maybe. But if what we found is true, your people deserve to know." Lyra's mind spun. "What did you find?" "Ruins," he said. Old ruins on a dead world, with writing in your language. They say humans and your kind once stood together. She froze. Her pulse stopped for a second. That couldn't be true. Could it? Before she could speak, a deafening roar shook the air. Lyra rushed to the window. High above, streaks of blue light tore across the sky. Council warships. They found you, she whispered. Static filled the line again. Lyra, the human's voice said through the chaos. If we lose contact, remember this. There's more to your history than they told you. The comm cut off. The tower trembled as an energy pulse hit the outer shields. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Lyra fell to her knees, clutching her headset. She looked at the fading signal. The human ship was still there, surrounded by council fighters. Run! She cried into the mic. Please, just run! But the radar showed no movement. The human ship held its ground. Then something strange happened. A light burst from the ship's hull, a glowing ring expanding outward. The council ships staggered back as their systems flickered. What is that? Lyra gasped. The light wasn't an attack. It was a transmission, a massive data pulse beaming straight into her system. Her screens flooded with ancient symbols, maps, names, genetic sequences, images, all labeled with one word: origin. Lyra watched in awe. The humans weren't enemies. They were looking for a connection for their past. Then the entire console went black. The tower shook again. The outer window cracked. Lyra stood, trembling. No, no, no. The lights dimmed. The last thing she saw on the screen was a message, burned in glowing blue letters. We are not your myth. We are your memory. And then, everything went dark. The tower fell silent. Only the echo of the human's last words lingered in the cold air. Lyra stood alone, surrounded by smoke and static. Her reflection in the broken glass looked back at her, half in shadow, half in light. She whispered, Humans were never gone. Outside, above the black sky, the council warships circled like vultures. And deep in the clouds below them, a single human ship disappeared behind the mountains, alive, waiting. And somewhere, in the dust of the ancient world, an old truth began to awaken again. The air was thick with dust and static. Lyra stumbled through the smoke-filled control room, coughing, her ears ringing from the last explosion. Sparks crackled above her head, throwing flashes of blue light across the walls. The smell of burning circuits filled the tower. Everything was silent now, too silent. The radar was dead, the screens black. But she could still hear something, a faint hum coming from deep below the floor like a heartbeat. She knelt down, pressed her palm against the metal tiles, and felt it. A pulse. The human signal hadn't vanished. It had gone underground. Her breath caught. He's still out there. Lyra pushed herself up, stumbling toward the emergency hatch. She had to see with her own eyes. Outside the glass dome, she could see faint trails of smoke drifting across the horizon. Far beyond the valley, where the mountains touched the sky, a faint silver glow shimmered. The human ship. It was landing. Her chest tightened. He's really here. She grabbed her breathing mask, slung her satchel over her shoulder, and ran out into the cold alien night. The wind was sharp and electric. Every step she took crunched on frozen ground. Above her, the Council's patrol ships circled silently, scanning for life signs. Their lights moved like predators. Lyra kept low, weaving between rocks and dry metal trees, her heart pounding faster with every step. The world around her felt alive, as if watching. She could still hear the faint hum, the human's ship, calling to her. Then she saw it. Half hidden in the mist, resting in a crater of blue dust, the ship looked ancient and scarred, like something that had crossed time itself. Its hull shimmered faintly, covered in strange writing, some in human script, some in alien runes. Both languages together. Lyra's hands trembled. "This can't be real." The ship door hissed open. A figure stepped out, tall, covered in armor, his face hidden behind a clear visor. And yet, even from a distance, she could see his eyes, bright, human eyes filled with shock and wonder. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Two living myths, each thinking the other could not exist. Lyra finally took a slow step forward. The human lifted his hand, not as a threat, as a greeting. "Don't be afraid," he said through his helmet's translator. His voice sounded softer than she expected. "We mean no harm." Lyra didn't answer. Her throat was tight, her mind racing. He was real, not a signal, not a dream. The human looked around. "This planet, it's still alive," he murmured. "After all this time." Lyra frowned. "What do you mean?" He turned toward her. "Your world was once part of a great alliance, ours and yours, but the records were erased after the collapse." Lyra's brows furrowed. "The collapse?" He nodded. "A war so old that both sides forgot who started it. After that, both histories were rewritten. Each side turned the other into a myth." She felt dizzy. Everything she'd been taught was a lie. A flash of light cut through the night sky. Council drones, 3 of them, heading straight for the crater. Lyra's eyes widened. "They found us!" The human turned, his armor lighting up. "We can't stay here. Come with me." "What? No, if they see me with you, they'll destroy us both anyway," he interrupted. "Move!" She hesitated for only a second before following him into the ship. The door sealed shut behind them with a heavy hiss. Inside, the air felt strange, warm, humming with energy. Screens glowed on every wall, filled with human symbols and star maps. She stared in awe. "This is impossible. We don't have ships like this." He smiled faintly. "Neither do we. Not anymore. This one's a relic from before the war." A voice crackled through the ship's intercom. "Captain Holt, multiple enemy contacts approaching fast." "Understood," he replied. He looked at Lyra. "You need to see something before they get here." He led her to the central console. On the screen was a hologram of her planet, rotating slowly. Then he zoomed in. Beneath the surface were glowing tunnels, structures, and lights. "These," he said, pointing to the holograms, "aren't mines. They're cities, buried and forgotten." Lyra's eyes widened. "Cities? From who?" He turned toward her. "From your ancestors. They were once human, like us." Her heart skipped a beat. "That's not true," she whispered. "It is," he said softly. "You and I, we share the same origin." Before Lyra could speak, the ship shook violently. An explosion ripped through the outer hull. The drones had found them. Red lights flared across the cabin. The human shouted, "Hold on!" The ship rose into the air, spinning as it dodged plasma fire. Lyra clung to the control panel, her eyes wide with terror. "What are you doing?" trying not to die," he shouted back. They burst through the clouds, the council fleet closing in from every side. Blinding lights filled the sky. The human flipped a lever. "EMP pulse, hold your breath." A shockwave exploded outward, a silent storm of energy that rippled through the night. The enemy ships flickered, then went dark, falling from the sky like stones. Lyra gasped. "You disabled them?" "Only for a minute," he said, gripping the controls. "We need to hide before they reboot." He steered the ship toward the mountains. Lightning flashed around them as they descended into a deep canyon. When the ship finally stopped, everything went quiet again, except their breathing. Lyra looked at him. "You risked your life to tell me this? Why?" He stared at her, his eyes tired but steady. "Because your people forgot who they were," he said. "And if they don't remember soon, both our worlds will die." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He hesitated. Then, with a heavy sigh, he opened a small metal box on the console. Inside was a glowing crystal, and within it, a moving image of stars forming a pattern. Lyra's eyes widened. "What is that?" "Our home," he said quietly. "The place both our species came from, before everything was destroyed." The crystal pulsed, casting blue light across their faces. Outside, thunder rolled over the canyon, and in the distance, the dark shapes of council ships began to move again. Lyra's voice trembled. "They're coming back." The human nodded. "Then it's time you learned the truth, Lyra. The truth your council would kill to keep hidden." He turned the crystal, and suddenly the room filled with light, 1,000 voices whispering from across time. Lyra clutched the edge of the console, her heart pounding. And in that light, for the first time, she saw visions of humans and aliens, together, laughing, working, building, one people, one world. The myths weren't myths at all. They were memories. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "What happened to us?" she whispered. The human looked at her with sadness. "Something that should never have happened again." A new alarm blared. The council ships had locked onto their location. Missiles were inbound. The captain's voice turned cold. "Hold tight, Lyra. This time, they won't erase the truth." He slammed the throttle forward. The engines roared like thunder, and the ship vanished into the storm, a flash of light swallowed by the darkness. Outside, the sky burned red as the council opened fire, and high above, among the stars, a single transmission. None escaped the chaos, Lyra's voice trembling but strong. "This is Lyra of the outer moon. The humans are real, and they remember us." The signal went silent, but somewhere, far away in the endless dark, another voice answered. The ship dove through the roaring clouds, chased by fire and lightning. Every alarm screamed. The hull rattled like it was being torn apart. Lyra gripped the edge of her seat, eyes wide, feeling her stomach twist as the ship dropped lower and lower through the storm. "Captain!" she shouted over the noise. "They're right behind us!" "I know!" Rian shouted back, fighting the controls. Static filled the cockpit. Sparks burst from the ceiling. The dashboard flickered red. Warning: critical systems failure. Outside, council ships streaked through the clouds like angry comets, firing bolts of blue energy. Each blast shook the air, echoing like thunder. Lyra turned toward the window. She saw one of the council fighters lock onto them, its weapons glowing. "They're going to hit us!" "Not yet," Rian said, jaw clenched. He yanked a switch, and the ship spun sideways. The blast missed by inches, slicing through the clouds instead. The pressure threw Lyra against the wall. She coughed, gasping for breath, her heart hammering in her chest. Everything around her was chaos. Flashing lights, metal groaning, the storm outside screaming like a living thing. Then, suddenly, silence. The ship broke through the last layer of clouds and fell into an enormous valley of black rock and glowing veins of energy. Lightning danced above them. The storm was now behind them, far above. Ryan steadied the ship, panting. "Welcome to the Hollow Rift," he said quietly. Lyra looked out in awe. The valley stretched endlessly, its cliffs shimmering with strange blue light. It didn't look natural. It looked built. "What is this place?" she asked. Ryan stared ahead. "The last hiding place of your ancestors." Her voice trembled. "How do you know that?" He pressed a few buttons on the control screen, and a faint hologram appeared. A glowing map of tunnels and ruins deep beneath the surface. "This data came from the crystal," he said. "It led us here." The ship landed softly near a ridge. When the engines powered down, the silence returned, deep and heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. Lyra followed Ryan outside. The air smelled metallic. Strange lights pulsed faintly under the ground with each of her steps. The entire valley felt alive. She whispered, "It's like the planet's heartbeat." Ryan nodded slowly. "Your ancestors built these caverns long before the collapse. They called this place the Memory Vault." He knelt, brushing dust off a nearby wall. Symbols glowed beneath his hand, half human, half alien. He smiled faintly. "See this? It's a language we both share." Lyra knelt beside him. The symbols shimmered brighter as her hand touched the stone. It felt warm, almost like it recognized her. Then, a low rumble shook the ground. Ryan stood up fast, scanning the area. "Something's powering up." A section of the cliff slid open, revealing a massive gate covered in blue lights. Lyra's eyes widened. "Did I just—" "You activated it," Ryan said. "Only someone from your bloodline could." She stared at the glowing door. "Then what's inside?" He looked at her, expression dark. "The truth." The gate split down the middle and opened with a deep metallic roar. A cold wind rushed out, carrying the smell of rust and time. Inside, lights flickered awake one by one, leading into darkness. They stepped in slowly. The corridor stretched deep into the earth, walls lined with strange machines covered in dust. Each one pulsed faintly when Lyra passed. Her voice echoed. "This place feels like it's waiting." Ryan nodded. "It's been waiting for you." At the end of the corridor stood a massive chamber filled with holographic pillars. When Lyra entered, the air shimmered, and figures appeared around them. Ghosts, holograms of both humans and aliens working side by side, laughing, speaking in languages long forgotten. The light flickered through them like echoes of time. Lyra's heart pounded. "They're real!" Ryan's face softened. This was the beginning. Before the war. Before the lies. One hologram caught her eye. A woman who looked almost like her, but older. The figure turned and looked straight at Lyra, as if aware of her presence. Lyra froze. Who is that?" The hologram spoke, its voice faint but clear. "If you are seeing this, then the bloodline of Elindra still lives." Lyra's breath hitched. Elindra. That was the name of her planet's first queen, the one said to have created their species. But this hologram looked too human. Ryan watched quietly. The hologram continued. "The humans were not our enemies. They were our kin. The Council destroyed our unity to control us. They erased the truth, and they will do it again. Lyra stepped closer, tears in her eyes. The hologram reached toward her, but its hand passed through air. "Find the memory core," it said. "Restore the truth before they erase it forever." The light flickered, and the hologram vanished. Lyra stood in silence, shaking. Her entire life, every lesson, every history book, it was all a lie. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. "She was right," he said. "The Council doesn't want peace. They want control." Lyra turned to him. "Then we have to find the memory core. Where is it?" He pointed to a deep tunnel at the far end of the chamber. "There, but it's locked, and if the Council's ships track our energy, they'll find this place in minutes." As if on cue, the ground trembled again. A low, mechanical hum echoed through the valley. Lyra and Ryan looked up. A massive ship was descending from the storm above. The Council's flagship. Lyra's heart dropped. "They found us." Ryan's eyes hardened. "Then we run." They sprinted down the tunnel, lights flickering behind them as dust rained from the ceiling. The sound of engines roared overhead. Council troops were landing. Lyra could hear the voice of the commander through distant speakers. "Seal the vault. Terminate all life forms." She gasped, running faster. "They're going to bury us alive." Ryan's voice was calm, but firm. "Then let's make sure they don't bury the truth with us." They reached a massive sealed door, covered in energy locks. Lyra placed her hands on it, the same way she had before. The door glowed, scanning her. "Come on," she whispered. "Open." The light turned green. The door began to move. But behind them, footsteps echoed. Council soldiers, their armor shining in the dark. "Lyra, go!" Ryan shouted, turning to face them. He raised his weapon, an ancient human rifle glowing with white plasma. She hesitated. "I'm not leaving you." "You have to," he yelled. "You're the key. Get to the core, no matter what happens." The soldiers opened fire. Bolts of energy scorched the walls. Ryan fired back, shouting over the explosions. Lyra ran through the opening door, tears in her eyes, the sound of battle echoing behind her. The last thing she heard before the door sealed shut was Ryan's voice. "Remember who you are." Then, silence. Lyra stood in the darkness, chest heaving, staring at a glowing orb floating in the center of the chamber. The memory core. Its light pulsed slowly, almost like it was breathing. She took a step forward, reaching out with trembling hands. As her fingers touched the surface, the world around her exploded into light. Memories, voices, faces, wars, peace, all flashing before her eyes. She gasped. The truth wasn't just about the past. It was about the future. And somewhere, above the ground, the Council's flagship prepared its final strike. Lyra whispered to herself, "If I'm going to die, I'll die telling the truth." Then she reached deeper into the light, and the core awake. Ined. The chamber blazed with a blinding light. Lyra screamed as images flooded her mind, millions of voices, memories, and flashes of a world that once was. It wasn't chaos. It was history, pure and raw, like the universe itself was speaking through her. She saw humans and aliens walking side by side under twin suns, building cities that floated above oceans of light. She saw leaders shaking hands, human and alien together, signing something called the Origin Pact. And then she saw the betrayal, the Council. Once protectors of peace, now hungry for control. They divided the alliance, spread lies, turned allies into enemies. She saw fire rain down from the skies. She saw Earth burn. She saw her own world shatter. Lyra fell to her knees, clutching her head. The voices screamed, accusing, begging, warning. And then, among the chaos, one voice rose above the rest, soft, gentle, familiar. "Lyra." She looked up. A hologram shimmered before her, the same woman she had seen before. Elindra. "You're real," Lyra whispered. The hologram smiled sadly. "No, child, I am what remains. But you are the last of us." Lyra's hands trembled. "What do you mean?" "You carry our blood," the hologram said. "Half human, half alien, you are the bridge we once dreamed of." Lyra froze, her heart racing. Half human. Her mind refused to believe it. But somewhere deep inside, something clicked. The warmth she had felt when touching the ancient walls, the way the machines responded to her, it all made sense now. Her whole life, she was told she didn't belong. And now she knew why. Elindra's voice grew softer. "The Council will destroy this memory. You must protect it. The truth cannot die again." Lyra shook her head, tears burning her eyes. "I don't even know how." "You will," the hologram said. "The core will guide you." The image flickered, fading. "Find the signal star. It still watches from above." Then she was gone. Lyra stood there, breathing hard. The memory core glowed brighter now, its hum rising in pitch. Outside, explosive irons shook the ground. The Council was getting closer. She pressed her hand to the orb. A holographic console emerged from the floor, covered in human and alien symbols. Her fingers moved on instinct, guided by something ancient in her DNA. The core responded. Suddenly, the ground cracked. Energy surged through the tunnels, lighting up the valley outside. Massive beams of blue light erupted from the cliffs, a defense system awakening after centuries of silence. Above, the Council flagship fired down, but the blasts were absorbed by a glowing dome forming over the rift. Lyra smiled faintly through the fear. "So that's what you were waiting for." Then her communicator buzzed, static at first, then a faint voice. "Lyra, do you copy?" Her heart skipped. "Ryan, you're alive!" "Barely," he said, coughing. "Had to crawl out of the west tunnel. I'm picking up insane energy readings. What did you do?" "I activated the core," she said quickly. "It's projecting a barrier. But the Council fleet, they're still above." "Then we don't have much time," Ryan replied. "That barrier won't last forever. You need to transmit what you found before they break through." Lyra looked at the console. A single phrase flashed on the screen. "Transmission route, signal star." She frowned. "Elindra said something about that. What is the signal star?" "Old myth," Ryan said. "A communication satellite left from before the collapse. If it's still functional, you could send the truth across the entire sector." Her eyes widened. "Then that's what we'll do." "No, you will," Ryan said sharply. "I'll stay here and hold them off." "Don't you dare," she said, anger flaring in her voice. "I'm not leaving you again." "You don't have a choice," he said quietly. "You're the key, Lyra. This story only ends if you tell it." Her breath trembled. "Ryan, please." Static filled the channel. Then silence. Lyra slammed her fist against the console, tears falling onto the glowing surface. She looked at the memory core one last time. "I'll finish this. I promise." She turned and ran down the corridor, following the path that led to the upper tunnels. The ground shook beneath her feet as the council forces breached the barrier. Light flashed from behind. The core chamber was under attack. She kept running. The tunnels grew narrower, twisting like veins through the earth. Every few seconds, she could hear the faint echoes of battle, blasts, screams, metal collapsing. At last, she reached a platform that opened to the surface. Far above, she could see the signal star, a small artificial moon, its light faint but still alive. Lyra climbed into a half-buried escape pod, the kind once used for atmospheric travel. The systems flickered weakly as she powered it on. "Come on, come on!" The engines coughed, then roared to life. She gripped the controls and launched upward. The pod shot through the smoke and debris, climbing faster and faster. Through the small window, she saw the planet's surface below, a war zone of fire and lightning. She saw the Council's flagship descending, and Ryan's ship still fighting. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Hold on, Ryan." Then, the pod broke through the clouds. The stars returned, cold, endless, silent. The signal star loomed ahead, spinning slowly in the dark. It looked old, broken, but alive. She aligned her pod and approached. "Let's hope you still remember us," she murmured. As she docked, a soft voice echoed through the pod, a mechanical AI, ancient but still functional. "Welcome, descendant of Elindra. Transmission core ready." Lyra's heart skipped. The system recognized her. She inserted the memory core into the console slot. Lights flared, energy pulsed through the station. The holographic AI spoke again. "Memory sync initialized. Would you like to broadcast truth to all connected civilizations?" Lyra's voice shook. "Yes, send it everywhere." The AI paused. "Warning! This mission will reveal classified historical data. This may trigger retaliation." "I know," she said. "Do it anyway." The console glowed brighter, symbols flashing in rapid succession. The core pulsed once, twice, then burst into a beam of pure light that shot out into the stars. Across the galaxy, long-forgotten beacons flickered to life. Worlds that had once erased their past now heard the voice of their ancestors again. Humans and aliens were one. The Council lied. The war was never between us. It was against the truth. Lyra watched the beam spread across space, tears streaming down her face. The signal carried her voice to every corner of the known universe. Down below, the Council flagship fired its main cannon at the rift, but the light from the core consumed the blast, sending a shockwave across the planet. And for the first time in centuries, silence returned to the stars. Lyra fell back in her seat, exhausted but smiling faintly. "Ryan, we did it." But then, a voice came through her headset, weak and broken. "Lyra, listen carefully." Her eyes widened. "Ryan, you're alive." Static filled the line. "They're not done yet. The Council has a second fleet, heading for you." Her heart dropped. "What? How far?" "Minutes." The transmission cut off. Lyra looked out the window. From the darkness of space, massive silhouettes began to emerge, dozens of warships, their lights burning like cold fire. Her breathing quickened. She whispered to herself, "So this is how it ends." The signal star trembled as the enemy fleet drew closer. And yet, in that moment, Lyra smiled, because the truth was already free. Still, the story wasn't over. Not yet. As the ships surrounded her, the AI spoke softly. "Would you like to initiate Phase 2, the Awakening Protocol?" Lyra's eyes widened. "What is that?" "A failsafe created by Elindra herself, to awaken what sleep is beneath the stars." Lyra hesitated. then placed her hand on the console. "Do it." The signal star lit up, brighter than a sun, and deep in the void, something ancient began to stir. The void trembled. Every star in sight seemed to flicker, as if the universe itself had taken a sudden, fearful breath. Lyra stared out of the window, her reflection trembling against the glass. The signal star pulsed brighter and brighter, its surface cracking open like a hatching shell. Streams of pure light bled into space, alive, wild, and ancient. The AI's voice was calm, but almost reverent. "Awakening protocol engaged. Stand by for genetic verification." Lyra's heart pounded. "What are you waking up?" "The architects," it replied. "The first ones, who built both human and alien kind." Lyra's mouth went dry. "That's impossible." "Not impossible," said the AI softly. "Just forgotten." The signal star vibrated with energy. Every panel, every light, every ancient wire hummed in harmony like a heartbeat echoing through time. Then space bent. A ring of light exploded outward, stretching across the stars, and inside it, something moved. Lyra's eyes widened as dark silhouettes began to appear within the light. Enormous structures, half metal, half organic. They looked like colossal ships, but their designs were unlike anything she had ever seen. Living machines, breathing stars. She whispered, "What are they?" "The architects," said the AI, "your true ancestors, awakened after 10,000 cycles of sleep." The ships stirred slowly, their surfaces glowing with alien runes that matched the marks on Lyra's own skin. The runes pulsed in sync with her heartbeat. She could feel them deep in her bones. She stumbled back, clutching her chest. "What's happening to me?" "They're responding to your DNA," the AI explained. "You are one of them, a living key." Lyra's mind spun. Her pulse raced faster as a strange warmth spread through her body. Her vision blurred, flashing with images of places she had never seen, vast cities of crystal and light filled with towering beings who looked both human and alien. The architects, her people. She gasped, falling to her knees as the visions grew stronger. Whispers filled her head, voices from beyond time. "Child of Elindra, we have waited." She pressed her hands to her temples, trembling. "What do you want from me?" "To remember." A wave of energy surged through her body. The AI's voice broke through the static. "Warning. Power levels critical. Incoming fleet detected. Council Armada entering orbit." Lyra forced herself to her feet. The holographic screen showed dozens of warships approaching, their formation tight, their cannons locked on the signal star. "They're here," she whispered. "They intend to destroy the truth," said the AI, "as they did before." Lyra wiped the sweat from her face and stared into the hologram. No, not this time. She looked at the glowing console, her mind racing. "If I can channel the architect's power through the transmission core, I might be able to stop them." "That will merge your consciousness with the network," warned the AI. "You may not survive." Lyra hesitated. Then she smiled faintly. Survival was never the point. She pressed both hands on the console. Light surged up her arms, crawling across her skin like liquid fire. Her veins glowed blue, her eyes turning pure white. Outside, the signal star blazed like a second sun. The Council fleet halted mid-flight, their sensors overwhelmed by the energy spike. Lyra felt her mind stretching, expanding. She could see everything, every ship, every star. Every living being connected through the faint hum of creation. She could even feel Rian. Somewhere far below, wounded but alive, looking up at the sky. "Rian," she whispered, her voice echoing across space. "Can you hear me?" He looked up, hearing her voice in his mind. His eyes widened. "Lyra? What are you—" "I'm not running anymore," she said softly. "They tried to bury the truth, but I'm going to make it shine so bright they'll never hide it again." Then she reached deeper into the core, merging with it completely. The signal star screamed. Energy erupted from its center, spreading through the architect's ships. Each one awakened fully, their eyes, massive orbs of glowing light, opening in unison. The Council fleet opened fire, their blasts striking the glowing barrier around the star. But the energy didn't shatter. It absorbed the attack, feeding it back into the light. "Child of the bridge," said the architect's voices in unison. "Command us." Lyra floated above the console now, her body suspended in pure energy. Her voice trembled but grew stronger. "Defend the truth. Protect the core." The architects moved. Massive beams of light shot from their ships, cutting through the Council's fleet like paper. The darkness of space became a battlefield of stars and fire. Ryan watched from below, his heart pounding as he saw the sky ignite. The Council ships were falling, one after another, but something about the light terrified him. It wasn't just power. It was alive. Inside the signal star, Lyra's mind pulsed with pain and wonder. She could feel everything, every thought, every heartbeat of her ancestors flowing through her. But she could also feel herself fading. Her voice grew faint. "AI, if I disappear, make sure they remember." "Affirmative," it replied softly. "Your name will live in the transmission." The last of the Council fleet shattered in the distance. The architects formed a protective circle around the signal star, their bodies glowing brighter and brighter. Lyra smiled through the pain. Her form flickered, light bleeding from her fingertips. Ryan's voice echoed faintly through the comm. "Lyra! Don't do this! Come back!" She closed her eyes, whispering, "I'm already home." The light engulfed her completely. The signal star pulsed once more, then unleashed a wave of energy that rippled across the galaxy. Every world that had once forgotten, remembered. Every chive that had been erased, reignited. Every child who had been told that humans and aliens were enemies now saw the truth. And when the light faded, the Council was gone. The architects were silent, and the signal star floated peacefully among the stars, its glow gentle and eternal. Rian looked up from the ravaged moon below, tears in his eyes. He whispered into the silence, "Rest well, Lyra. The galaxy remembers." But then, a faint flicker appeared in the distance. A small beacon light, blinking slowly from the signal star. And a familiar voice whispered through static, soft, distant, but alive. "Rian, the story isn't over yet." The beacon's pulse grew faster, brighter, stronger. Something, or someone, was coming back. The beacon pulsed faster, sending rings of light rippling through the darkness of space. Each pulse grew stronger, sharper, like a heartbeat, echoing across the stars. Ryan stood at the edge of the shattered valley, his armor torn, his body covered in dust. He stared at the sky, unable to breathe. He had seen Lyra vanish in the light. He had felt the shockwave ripple through his ship and into his bones. He had thought she was gone. But now, that light, that rhythm, It felt like her. The beacon blinked again. Once. Twice. Then a sound came through his comm, soft static, followed by a whisper. "Rian." His heart stopped. He pressed his headset tight. "Lyra? Lyra, is that you?" Static. Then, faint laughter. "You always underestimate me, Captain." Ryan froze, staring up. How are you alive? You were gone?" she interrupted. "Not exactly. The core didn't destroy me. It changed me." Her voice carried a strange echo now, like two tones speaking as one, human and alien together. Ryan's voice cracked. "Where are you?" "Everywhere," she said quietly. "The architects merged my consciousness with the network. I see everything now, Rian. Every planet, every life, every thought. The truth isn't just data anymore. It's alive." He sank to his knees, eyes wide. "Lyra, what have you become?" "Something old, something new," she said softly. "The bridge they tried to erase." The ground beneath him trembled. He looked up and gasped. The signal star had transformed. Its once metal surface now looked alive, flowing with veins of light that pulsed in rhythm with Lyra's voice. And around it, the architects hovered in perfect formation, silent guardians surrounding their reborn core. Then the AI spoke again, its voice calm but urgent. "Residual energy from the awakening has triggered a gravitational anomaly. The star's stability is failing." Ryan's eyes widened. "You mean it's going to explode?" "Collapse," said Lyra. "The architect's energy is too vast for physical space. They're not meant to stay awake this long." Ryan's throat went dry. "Then what do we do?" "You get out," she said simply. "The council's gone. The truth has spread. My part is done." He shook his head fiercely. "No, I'm not leaving you again." "Rian," her tone softened. "You don't understand. I am the star now. I can't go back." He stood up, clenching his fists. "There's always a way." Silence, then a faint sigh. "You haven't changed." The AI's voice cut in again. "Warning. Gravitational surge increasing. Structural collapse in 300 seconds. Ryan looked up at the glowing monolith. Every instinct told him to run. But his heart refused. He climbed into his damaged ship, hands shaking as he pulled the manual thrusters online. "Lyra, guide me in." "What?" she said sharply. "Rian, no." "Do it," he said through gritted teeth. "If I can reach your control core, maybe I can stabilize it. I'll pull you out even if it kills me." "It will kill you!" "Then I'll die doing something that matters," he snapped. For a moment, she was silent. Then, softly, "You really are human." He smiled faintly. "Took you long enough to notice." He fired the thrusters. The ship shuddered, engines spat, tearing as it rose from the valley floor. Clouds parted, revealing the signal star ahead, now a burning sphere of gold and blue, radiating energy like a newborn sun. Lightning arced around it, debris spiraled in orbit, but Ryan didn't stop. As he neared the star, a translucent barrier appeared, waves of energy flowing like water. His ship's shields screamed in protest, but he pushed through. "Ryan, stop! The radiation—" "Almost there!" he shouted. The ship trembled violently, lights flickering, alarms blared. The hull began to crack. Then he saw it. At the heart of the signal star floated a crystalline sphere, pure, bright, and pulsing in time with Lyra's voice. Her soul. He whispered, "I see you." "Rian, please," she said, voice breaking now. "If you try to touch the core, you'll disintegrate." He grinned weakly. "You said that last time. I didn't listen then either." "You're insane." "Maybe." He reached forward anyway. The ship's hull peeled apart as energy flooded in, wrapping around him like liquid fire. Every nerve screamed, but he didn't stop. He stepped out into the light. There was no sound now, no air, only brightness. And in that brightness, Lyra stood before him. Not hologram, not ghost. Real. Her form shimmered between alien and human, her eyes glowing like twin stars. "Rian," she whispered, "you shouldn't have come." He smiled faintly. "You should know by now. I don't take orders." She laughed softly, but tears shimmered in her eyes. "You're going to burn with me. Then we burn together." The core trembled around them, light splintering like glass. Cracks of gold and white spread through space as the signal star's outer shell began to collapse. Lyra reached out, her hand trembling. When their fingers touched, the energy burst outward in a massive shockwave. Time slowed. They saw everything. The first humans leaving Earth. The first Al-Ins reaching for the stars. The day both races met and called each other family. And the moment greed turned love into war. Lyra looked at Rian, tears falling freely now. "This is what they took from us." He nodded, voice trembling. "Then let's give it back." They joined hands fully, and the core exploded into light. The blast tore across the galaxy. Every world lit up with visions of their shared past. Every lie the Council ever told was erased in an instant. And when the light faded, the signal star was gone. No wreckage, no debris, only a quiet shimmer, like a tear in the fabric of space. Rian opened his eyes slowly. He was lying in a grassy field under a pale blue sky. The air was warm, clean, peaceful. He sat up, confused. This wasn't his world. It wasn't any world he knew. In the distance, he saw her, Lyra, standing beside a lake of light, smiling gently. He walked toward her, heart pounding. "Is this?" She nodded. "A fragment of the architect's realm, the bridge between life and memory." He frowned. "Are we dead?" She looked up at the endless sky. "Not exactly. Just somewhere in between." He stood beside her in silence. The air shimmered around them, filled with faint whispers of laughter and music, echoes of a time long lost. Rian exhaled. "We did it, didn't we?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes. The galaxy knows the truth now. The war is over." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe it was worth it." She turned to him, eyes glowing softly. "There's still one more step, Ryan. The architects aren't gone. They're waiting for a choice." He frowned. "What choice?" Lyra extended her hand. "To rebuild." Before he could answer, the air cracked, and a portal of golden light opened before them, revealing stars reborn, worlds renewed. But beyond the beauty, something dark stirred at the edges, a shadow deeper than space itself. Lyra's voice grew quiet. "They've seen the light, but not everyone will accept it. The truth has enemies." Ryan clenched his fists. "Then we fight again." Lyra's smile was soft but unbroken. Not fight, Ra.
Iron. This time, we awaken them.
The wind picked up, carrying their voices into the shimmering horizon. The architect's song echoed through the stars once more, and as they stepped into the light, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. The story of humans and aliens had ended, only for something far greater to begin.